here in a few minutes. If not, we've got enough to go with, so that's great. I'd like to call to order the October 2nd Planning and Zoning meeting. The meeting was originally scheduled as a regular Planning and Zoning meeting, but since there's nothing on the agenda for that part, we decided to move this to a comprehensive plan and public workshop on what, Mel? Section 163 point whatever.
Yes, so let me go back to that page, sorry, I lost it. Purpose of obtaining public input on the current status of the comprehensive plan compared to existing statutory requirements, which is the worksheets that you get that compares your plan to the statutory requirements, including specifically the peril of flood requirements in section 7(8), part 2, part F, which is the coastal management element part of the comprehensive plan. That specific worksheet is forthcoming to you. And then to receive current local government policy direction, any policy deficiencies, issues, or concerns related to the existing comprehensive plan.
Okay. Let the record reflect what she said. Before we get on that, though, I wanted to see if we had any public input or anybody. We're certainly happy for you to chime in as we go along, but didn't know whether anybody had anything they wanted to say up front or ahead of time, or anything we needed to focus on.
I read most of this packet. I couldn't print it off, ran out of ink. But I'm delighted to see that it's going in the direction of trying to control some of the ingress and egress of the roads.
Mhm.
I think that's been long needed. Too bad it can't be retroactive, but I think if we can control some of this, it's a good idea. So
Okay.
I think it's everything that I saw. I had some questions, but I don't know what they were.
Will probably pop in your head once we get to that section. Okay. Anything from the board members that we need to talk about ahead of time, or are we ready to just dive right in? Mel, do you have anything that we need to discuss? Do we literally need to go to this page?
Well, I will say that when we left off last time, we were still in the
1.9.2,
Yes.
yep.
So we can either come back to that later, or we can do that first and then get into the traffic circulation element, however you want to do it, just to make a note that we need to pick that back up.
Well, let's do what we have to do, which is this one first. We'll do the tougher one first, and then we can check that one off the list, and then jump over to 1.9.2, and then over into the transportation if we have time. If that works for everyone. So what we're looking at, and it's up on the board, I don't know whether you can read that or not. Comprehensive Plan Transportation Element, 1.63.31776B. So just for the benefit of the crowd that doesn't have this, I'll just summarize kind of these sections that we're not going to talk about. Plans for aviation, port aviation, facilities coordinated, not applicable. And then these comments are your comments, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. Plans for circulation of recreational traffic, including bicycling, whatever. And it's not applicable to us because we have a population under 50,000. We certainly do have some language in the transportation part about bicycles and walking and things like that, so we'll cover that. And then airport master plans, number 4, and that's not applicable, which that's all, I guess, airport, regional impact, blah, 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 blah. So we're good there. Next one is existing and projected intermodal deficiencies and needs. And then you had written data and analysis on that. Can you tell us what your thoughts are, or what we need to provide, if
Yes,
anything, for that?
Certainly. So when you update your comprehensive plan with an year-based amendment, which is, for you, is not due until I think 2019, you have a requirement to update also the data and analysis. Is that right? Have you received a letter from DEO about your year I think I looked it up, and I think I recall it was in 2019 that it's due, so you'd want to start working on that next year. But what you're doing here is almost 100% of that, other than creating the data and analysis to support the text amendments and updating your existing analysis that's from 2006 or 7, whenever it was done last. So those types of things would be included in that analysis when that's conducted.
Okay, and how do we conduct that?
You can, I mean, that's something I can do if that's the direction. Again.
Is this a
not-
traffic study or what exactly
No,
is
it's
it?
not really a traffic study. It's an analysis between your land use and your transportation, your modes of transportation.
Okay,
Yeah, it's really not much here in the transportation element. You've got a little bit more in the future land use element. The housing element has some, and there's a lot of data that's based on population projections. There's
Okay.
a GIS analysis that would need to be done to figure out how many vacant acres you have, if you have any wetland acres in town, which is part of what we're gonna have to do for this grant anyway.
okay, good. Can we just roll that over to you and Mel then?
Yep.
To do that, Mel, is that okay from your standpoint?
You betcha.
And you're gonna pass it over? Okay. Just wanted to be clear on that. Not to take anything away from you, Mel, but,
No, I got enough on my plate.
all right. Then the next one is how the local government will correct existing facility deficiencies, meet the identified needs of the projected transportation system, and advance the purpose of this paragraph and the other elements of the comprehensive plan. And then you've got, over on your comments, objective and policies related to that.
Yeah, that means that reading through your existing comprehensive plan, that issue has already been addressed in those policies, so you don't really need to take any action.
Okay. Next one's local governments, metropolitan planning area designed as an MPO pursuant to blah, 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 that also address, and then you had written, lies within the boundary of the Bay County Transportation Planning Organization, staffed by West Florida Regional Planning Council. So we're covered under their wing?
So that means number 2, A, B, C, D, E, all have to be addressed because you are within the TPO boundary. And for Bay County, it's the county line.
Okay,
So you lie within that. So that just means you are required to address A, B, C, D, and E.
Well, some aren't applicable. It says B and D aren't applicable.
Right, because you don't have a seaport, you don't
Right.
have a rail, you don't have an airport.
perfect. So A is alternative modes of travel, public transportation, pedestrian and bicycle travel.
Right, so that, there was language I added in the new objective 2.7 and the subsequent policies.
Oh, good, okay.
So the red language that here is something that needed to be addressed, and so I proposed a new language in there that we'll get to when we get to that section of the transportation element.
Okay, and then same for the capability to evacuate population before an impending natural disaster.
Right.
Same thing,
Yep.
okay. Next one is E, identification of land use densities, building intensities. Transportation management programs to promote public transportation systems and designated public transportation corridors so as to encourage population densities sufficient to support such systems. Does not have a designated public transportation corridor, so we're off the hook on this one.
Yeah, I don't even know if you don't have the Baytown trolley coming out. here,
No.
So you don't even have public transit. So you don't have a public transit corridor.
No.
The only time that we do is the celebrate twice thing. I don't know
Yeah.
how that interacts. It as a one-time deal.
No, yeah, that doesn't count, that's a special event.
Okay.
Okay. And then 3A, 3 and 3A is not applicable because our population is under 50,000.
Correct.
Mass transit provision is one of them, and then efficient public transit services base, so we don't have to worry about that. So over on the next page, Quite a long,
Nothing applicable.
yeah.
This is talking about the airport master plan that Bay County would have to address. Because when the airport used to be over near Panama City, they used to have an airport master plan and a comprehensive plan because of the adjacency of the airport to the local government, but you don't have that here, you don't have an airport. Public one, you've got Tyndall, but that's different.
And then the next one, traffic circulation, types, location, extent of existing proposed major thoroughfares, bicycle and pedestrian ways, corridors, that kind of language. And you had said the traffic circulation map on 44, I remember this, should be updated with newer mapping systems for clarity. So is that something you can do, or is that something Mel needs to work
I
on?
think we need to figure out how to get somebody who can handle GIS work, and that would include the map that you have up behind you there.
What's GIS?
Geographic Information Systems. It's a computer software program that I don't have, but the West Florida Regional Planning Council can contract with you to do that if you would like. And also, Bay County contracts with several of the smaller local governments to do that also. So to try and figure out what the best fit would be to do some of this.
So when you say
analysis.
contract, they're going to charge us to do that?
I don't, I know that the West Florida will. I'm not sure how Bay County's working it out, but I would imagine that they would. 'Cause
Okay.
It's you paying for their staff time.
Well, since Jim's not here, I'm going to let him work on that one. We'll let him run preliminary, Mel, if that's okay, and then,
Yeah, if you get somebody who really knows what they're doing, it's really not that hard.
Yeah, it's just a matter of-
It's a matter of calculating area. You'll know how many square feet of or how many square acres of residential you have, how many acres of each land use category. You can project from vacant acres, how much vacant capacity you have for new future residents, and it's
Okay.
really interesting stuff.
The Bay County property appraiser already uses GIS for this area, right?
The county does. The property appraiser uses a GIS, a spatial-based system to figure out number of acres and what size parcels are and things like that.
okay. And then existing transportation system levels of service and system needs, availability of transportation facilities and service, and you've got that covered evidently in the new language. Objective
Are
2
you on
point,
the third page of that chart?
did I miss a page, or am I?
I'm just wondering, are you still on
I'm
the fourth?
confused about where we are today.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, that's what I had. Okay. Let me look at what was handed out. Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Transportation element 3.
Sorry. Evidently my pages were different. I thought what you'd sent me is what I printed out.
Should have
Yep,
been the
and now
same.
we'll.
There was a one that was 6 pages by accident. There was 3 pages that were
Right.
blank at the end.
Right, I remember
This
that.
one I converted to a PDF.
So I've got 3 printed pages.
Yeah, you should be right. There should be 3.
Okay.
The last one should be 4, number 4. Should be the last one.
And it's one of the ones with not anything on it, then? Or no?
Number 4 is not applicable because that has to do with the airport master.
Okay,
plan.
so I'm on the handouts, transportation element 3, plans for port aviation. Is that where we are?
Should be right here.
Okay,
Um,
not
transportation
applicable.
element 3, yeah, other than none of this is applicable.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then the traffic we did, not applicable. So is that it then?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. There's only a couple things that were lacking, and I went ahead and added proposed language for you to look at.
Okay. So now then we need to have another meeting on this?
Well, are we gonna talk about the actual language? Do you wanna talk about the actual?
We
language?
can, sure.
Yeah. So I guess what, because this is a workshop, you'll vote on it in another.
Oh, I see, the highlighted language? The transportation section of the comp,
The traffic circulation element, is that what were you on that and I just didn't realize it? Is that what we were?
well, I was gonna go back to 1.9.2 and try to
Okay,
clear
that's
that
fine.
up.
No, that's fine.
But is this what we have to have done?
No,
Okay.
that's not what you have to have done for the grant.
Sorry, I'm behind on this.
No,
Okay.
no, it's fine. The grant, when we submitted the grant request, we submitted it to update the plan. And they came back and countered and said, well, that's fine, but we also want you to specifically address 163.3178. So
Okay.
that put a extra caveat into the plan. So now we're supposed to specifically address this flood peril policy that the legislature adopted in 2015 with some analysis.
So we can do that the next meeting, you can print some
Well,
stuff
we
out
have to
for
have
us.
part of the grant, they put you on a timetable. By the end of this month, you have to have 2 workshops specifically addressing updates to the comprehensive plan and the flood peril. So we at least need to have one, and I think you'll ask your attorney if this is satisfied for one, and then you need to at least have one more that addresses
That flood.
specifically
The flood.
peril.
And is the flood language something you're going to give us?
Yes, I can, but there's an analysis they want completed prior to the proposed language, so we kind of know where we are.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We don't have that yet, I guess.
Right, well, because we haven't done the workshops yet. We
Okay.
have to do the analysis, so I.
So
can
next
keep working
workshop, then we'll start with the flood.
The flood peril.
Flood
But it would
peril.
be a good idea to get somebody to do that GIS analysis so that you can see on a map where your flood zones are, where you've had repetitive loss, if you've had any, I don't know, from flooding, where your hurricane storm surges and that kind of thing.
Doesn't Bay County already have those for Mexico Beach and the Gulf?
They probably have the hurricane port, the storm surge and the evacuation zone. I don't know that they would have, I don't know that it would have specifically for Mexico Beach. They would have it for unincorporated Bay County in their comprehensive plan. But they're not gonna know the number of acres, residential number of acres are vacant, that kind of thing. They can do that for you, but you'll have to find out what they charge or if they charge or.
Okay. Well, Mel and I will spend a little preliminary time. Jim's not gonna be back till the 9th, so we can,
And you
Keep
not
going.
call Nancy over at the city of Parker, because I know she uses them for her GIS work.
We've had them do some stuff for us,
Okay.
the county that is.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so I got a good relationship with them, so
Okay, good.
I just need a list of what we need, and
Okay,
they can
I can-
provide that.
I can send that to you.
perfect.
For a fee, of course.
Yeah.
I started to say, are you already having to pay a fee for the other things
I've
they've
already got
done
some
for
free
you?
stuff out of them, so I think
Oh, you might be at the end of that road then.
Yeah.
Good. Great. Okay. So, good there, and then we'll set another meeting. And when you say we need 2 meetings by the end of October?
That's what the grant says. It's got a schedule, and it's for the first payout. It had that as a target by the end of this month. And I think the next agenda that comes out, I want to say discussion of flood peril with the statute number on it, just because we have to send in the agendas to them as the deliverable for the receipt
Right.
of the funds.
Right. So if we had it covered in this one, then we had another one,
Right.
we could do that as part of our regular meeting. Not a regular meeting, our regular workshop.
Yeah, workshop.
Okay, that'd be fine.
We
We'll-
just got our grant agreement with them in the email today,
Yeah.
even though it's retroactive to July 1.
Yeah.
So that put us behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
Do some good work.
Well, I'm glad we're at
It's
least.
really not very timely, is it?
That's how they
Well,
roll. It's kind of standard.
Typical then.
Yeah.
Is-
do what we gotta do.
Is there a dollar number that we're going
Yeah.
for
We've been awarded $25,000
to be used for?
for this particular exercise.
Okay. So once we get the paperwork done, then we get the check.
No, it's a reimbursable thing when we pay it out.
Okay. Well, it's well worth doing the work then if it's 25 grand on the docket, so that's great.
Where will
Okay.
you earmark the funds? Do you know?
I'm sorry.
Where will the funds be earmarked for? What will they be earmarked for?
flood
For
or,
the comprehensive plan.
Just working on the
Right.
plan, okay.
Yeah,
Just continuation of the work on the plan.
to get a complete plan done. when
Gotcha.
we're done.
Or our expert of it here.
Exactly.
okay,
Gotcha.
okay. All right. Do you want to work on traffic circulation element, or you want to go back to 1.9.2 and there's 4 pages of that to try to knock that out? Any preference from the group?
Start
Okay.
at 1.9 and go
Let's
forward.
do 1.9.2, that's what was on the kind of agenda to work on, so we'll work on that first.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm at 1.9.2, and that page on mine ends at 1.11.2, so does anybody have any comments between 1.9.2 and 111.2?
It's not gonna be your time.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. I didn't think so.
In a few minutes, because I don't think we're doing it, but
Okay.
let's wait some time.
Okay,
Okay,
you've got a copy we can
thank you.
look on together.
Okay.
Jeff, while you're looking at that, I had an okay at 1.10, stormwater management plan seems to make sense. And then I had a leave in and discuss objective 1.11. The city shall maintain adequate facilities for public recreation to meet or exceed the adopted level of service standards. Who defines the adopted level of service standards?
You do.
We do.
Yep, so each of so prior to 2011, you were required by the state to have concurrency for park space, water, potable water, sanitary sewer, transportation, stormwater. There were 7 in my brain. I woke up with a sleepy brain today. And anyway, in 2011, the state withdrew the requirement to have transportation and park space. So that's a local option now. If you have it, you can keep it, or you can remove it. I think we talked about last meeting or the meeting before that you wanted to retain transportation and the concurrency system and the proportionate fair share, so that if a developer came in and
Doesn't cost
created
us.
a lot of demand and you didn't have the capacity, they would be required
Right.
to help pay for that improvement. So park space is still in here, and again, that's a local option. So what happens is, it's based on your population, and you set standards on how many acres of park space you want to have. It's usually by 1,000 persons, so I think you had 8.75.
Got about 1,000.
Let me check it.
So I just want to make sure that it
So yeah, so
works.
you do have level of service standards for everything, all 7 of the what used to be required. You can set those to however you want them to be.
When you say we have them in a previous policy, or we have them,
You have them adopted today in the comprehensive plan.
okay.
So, for example, the level of service standards for the sewer system, sanitary sewer system shall be no less than 250 gallons per residential unit per day. Commercial units have a minimum of 150 gallons per day per 1,200 square feet of commercial space. So what you do is, when a 2,000 square foot commercial space comes in, you measure that to see whether or not there's still capacity at whatever facilities that's being sent to from this Mexico Beach, because you don't have it around here. So wherever it's going, you just measure it to make sure there's that kind of capacity at the
Okay.
wastewater treatment.
Can you tell me where those standards are in the comp plan ballpark?
Yep, so the utilities element has the sanitary sewer, it has the potable water, it has the storm water.
Okay. So it's in the sections we haven't gotten to yet.
Right.
And so is
Except
there
for
recreation,
Transportation is the one.
recreation, there's a section in there?
It's parks and, yeah, it's your parks.
Okay,
on.
so this, what I was concerned about is I want to make sure that the federal government or somebody way up the ladder wasn't telling us what we had to have.
No, you get to decide what
Okay.
you want.
That's fine, okay, then we should leave it in, I think. Okay. City shall pursue local and state federal funds necessary to upgrade or acquire facilities for public, yes, absolutely. That was 1.11.1, and then the next one is, city shall retain ownership of all public street ends or easements to the access the Gulf. I would include this as part of parks and open space element.
So both of those are talking about public recreation, public waterfront, access to the Gulf. Those are more of a parks and recreation issue, and that's why, instead of putting it here in the transportation, I mean, I guess you could leave it and have a policy in both sections, at least, to me, they were more of a recreation.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense in the recreation. So then 1.12 down to 1.13.6. If anybody has anything they want to discuss there, I had lots of okays all the way down through. Let's see, the last one I had. Oh, okay. I had to read the last one a couple times. So basically what it says is that if there's a new business going in, it can't complain about the waterfront business as being something that would be in their way.
Which one, which number is that?
1.13.6. So dependent uses by prohibiting the location of any use that will consider the working waterfront a nuisance. So in other words, we wouldn't want a business that would consider boats going up in the canal a nuisance or something like that.
Is our waterfront considered a working waterfront?
It seems like I asked that question once,
Yeah.
that you had, whether or not you had some sort of commercial marina on.
Well, what we talked about with the charter boats on the canal,
Yeah.
So that.
I don't know, I mean, that's a working
Yeah, I
waterfront.
mean, it's dependent on the water, they couldn't operate without having it being right there on the water. That's what the legislature was concerned with, which was happening was that all this land was converted into residential condo type
Yeah.
residential
Yeah.
uses, and they were losing the
Like
economic
marinas
aspect.
being converted to condos, just like we did here, and all the slopes
Right.
went away.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
okay.
okay. So, okay there? All right, next page. Runs from 1.13.7 down to 1.13, which looks like you changed to 10, yeah, 0.10. So on the first one, I had trouble with this one a little bit. I had written down Canal Drive. Do you know where Canal Drive is?
I'm assuming it's on the canal.
It is. It's the,
Just in front.
I'd say, it's where we just did the grant, all the way down that area, where we did all new slips.
What, on the west end?
Yes.
Yes.
On the west side.
Northwest end.
Okay.
You know where the Welcome Center is?
Yes.
That's on Canal Drive.
Okay.
Yeah, good thought. So, this says, working waterfronts shall be protected by prohibiting the approval of any new residential subdivision along the access road between the working waterfront and Highway 98. So, I was having trouble with that one.
Well, let's figure out whether or not you even have this kind of situation. So, is there a working waterfront south of, on that canal road that you're talking about? Is there
There isn't, some charter boats on a temporary basis will pull there to pick up people to go out. The permanent charter boats are farther upstream to the east and on the other side. So there potentially could be a residential area behind Canal Drive as part of a someday development.
So let me ask you this, is there a
It's-
potential for a new residential subdivision, or is it already all existing?
Now, there's a potential there. Now, whether you would have access to it from Canal Drive depends on whether they purchased an
We're talking
easement
about
to
this
get,
area?
yeah, an easement to get through there, exactly.
So there are just a scattering of houses, not every lot has a house in this blue area? is that
Correct.
right? So you're thinking that they could buy one of the lots and create a road to go this way?
Yeah, which would give their subdivision access to the,
Is this a
Can I-
platted subdivision? Do you know, Mel, if this is a platted subdivision here?
it's private land.
That is not.
not a platted subdivision? They're just individual lots?
Individual lot.
Yes.
There are meets and bounds?
Right. Well,
They're not lot and block? Do you know whether or not you have a policy or a regulation in your LDRs that prevents one residential subdivision from accessing through an existing lot and block of a residential subdivision? Because that's kind
not
of.
aware that we do.
Okay.
The transportation language that we're gonna get to talks about connecting those roads, the hubs, or the stubs, I guess they called them,
Yeah.
from one to another.
Yeah, but there's no stub here right now. It's just
Right.
lots.
But there are some vacant lots you could make a stub.
Are you able to get on the internet on your laptop?
I am not.
I was gonna say we could check the property appraiser's website to see if those are lot and blocks, so we can find it out later.
Okay, but it's just a flag I thought we ought to take a look at.
If it's a lot and block, that means it's a platted subdivision. If it's meets and bounds, that's not. It's just described.
Okay.
Meets and bounds. Okay, so I'm gonna check, okay, so the bigger concern is whether or not you could drive down Canal Parkway and exit to the west through one of those empty lots to
Mhm.
get, is there a working waterfront on Canal Parkway?
Well, that's part of it where
That's where they're temporarily.
the charter boats do temporarily come in there and pick up people.
I think for some of them, it's more than temporary. Don't we have charter boats that have permanent slips right there?
They do, but they're more farther up. Well, I guess they're
Well,
on Canal Road. They're
There's
just
some,
on a different
some
area.
there behind,
You're absolutely right, yep.
Guilford is a commercial enterprise.
I started to say, they're behind 42nd Street, because we
Right.
used to live there. They're, yeah, they're right,
So,
They're on both sides.
let me tell you the intent of this policy, and maybe it just needs to be tweaked a little. The
Okay.
intent is that you've got somebody who's an established business and they've been there for 30 years. And it might be charter boat captains, it might
Mr.
be
Guilford, yeah.
repair or whatever, something to do with marine vessels. And then there's, this vacant land between that and the Highway 98 would use. And somebody comes in and builds a residential subdivision in there, and now all these truck traffic and all this commercial activity is going through the residential subdivision, and they start complaining about the traffic and going too fast, and my children are playing in the road, and that's the intent of that policy. But I'm trying to figure out if it would, because if there isn't any development on this east side of Canal Parkway,
Yeah, north or east. So after
so there's just a few residential homes on the west side.
there's pretty full there and getting
Where do they
completely
park when they're getting on the boats?
on the
East side.
on the east side. Yeah, they
On the
park.
lots?
There's
No.
no lot. It's right away from the city. There's no lots on the east side
Yeah.
of Canal Parkway, it's water.
I'm sorry, west side.
Yeah, there,
Are they parking on the west side on the right?
Yes, there's designated parking areas there that we just put in as part of the plan.
Not on the west side.
Yeah, on the west side. Oh, well, the west side of the canal.
Not on the west side of the road.
On the road?
No, not on the west side of the road,
So they're
correct.
parking on the east side of the road?
East side of the road on the west. We need to take you over there.
Well, I've seen it, I've been there, not recently, but
Yeah.
it seems like I remember just a few houses here and there, it wasn't like a strip of houses,
Okay.
right?
Right, but they're filling in. The vacant ones, I mean, the lots have been sold and they're starting to fill in.
Does it matter that we've still got a couple
But
of
see,
commercial
this would
lots
prevent a
there?
new residential subdivision, if it's already existing, it wouldn't matter, it would still get housing permits. This would prevent a new residential subdivision.
Then that's what we would want, I would think. To prevent a new subdivision from interfering with the commercial aspect of the canal requirements.
What happens when St. Joe develops these lots right
Right,
here?
that's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay, and you
Well,
just,
that wouldn't be between, this says between the residential subdivision.
In 98.
in 98, which is right, yeah, because they
Yeah.
developed this right here is between the
Yeah,
residential subdivision.
they'll probably access from up here, they probably won't access from Canal, they'll probably access from 98 to get down in here.
Does it matter that this is still commercially zoned?
No.
Okay.
And, we can also define what a working waterfront
Yeah. Well,
Charter boats, that's.
I think that whole area is a working waterfront.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. It just, this would prevent a new residential subdivision from,
Punching through
yeah,
to that area.
yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
It sounds like it's already established lots.
Would you take a ride down there again to refresh your
Yeah.
memory, maybe before the next meeting, and then come back and say,
Yep.
you know, right at
Is
the
that
rate?
the only one in town? Is that
What?
the only area, or is there some north of 98?
There's a marina north of
They go up-
98.
They go up through the canal to get to it?
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
And is there any undeveloped land around that that would, you'd have to travel through to get to 98?
Over by the boat ramp.
Well, there's an area over there, undeveloped right now.
Would you have to travel past the working waterfront to get to 98 from there?
You would have to,
Mhm.
just,
It's the quarry properties
That's
all
my
down that
favorite.
canal, Mel.
So,
That's the
so
cool
they
part
would be
there.
passing the working waterfront to get to the residential. You're,
talk about waterways.
but this policy would be concerned about the reverse, is that they would go through the subdivision to get to the working waterfront. But this, you're saying that would be opposite, they would go through the working waterfront to get to the residential subdivision.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm really confused.
Are
Yeah.
we talking about cars or boats?
We're talking about cars. We're
Or
talking
trucks
about
and
preventing a lot of
equipment.
commercial traffic from going through a residential subdivision to get to a commercial use. But it sounds like this is the opposite, they would go through the commercial use to get to the residential subdivision. So if you live in a residential subdivision, you don't want a commercial use behind you that's not on 98 where all those trucks are having to go through in front of your house every day just to get to the
Well, then
commercial or industrial.
that would be a problem with Cory Card, wouldn't it? Because there's supposed to be commercial in there.
Well, 30th Street and all that is commercial.
Is it a working
This is
waterfront?
commercial here. So you get to it.
So where is the marina?
I don't have my glasses on.
It's
It's here.
dog leg, past the dog leg on the right.
The marina somewhere in this
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Okay, so you get to it from here.
Correct.
So you're not driving through a residential subdivision to
No.
get to it?
Yeah, I get real confused how we got into this thing.
Okay, sorry. Take a look, and then let us know if we need to change the language.
The entire Brown's already an approved PUD, isn't it?
It's not a PUD,
It's not,
it's a mixed use.
okay, but it's already done.
It's done.
Through Bay County.
No, it's through the city.
To us?
The Brown area?
Yes.
That's inside the city limits? I couldn't.
Was that annexed in? Is that,
It was.
it was?
2006.
That's the St. Joe County,
Okay,
and they've done nothing with it at this point.
okay. All right, sorry to get us off on that, but I thought it was something we should
It's
look
important.
at. And,
I had a question on the Brown.
yeah.
That northern border of the top edge of that, is that the intercoastal waterway?
No,
No? Okay.
it's further north of that.
Yeah.
Okay. I had nothing else on page 47 down to that one we mentioned. So the next one is 1.3.4, which is crossed off. I had, on 1.1.4, the city has executed interlocal agreement with the Bay County School Board providing for close coordination and evaluation of development proposals. Our kids actually go to Gulf County, although they have the option to go to Tyndall, I understand, which is in Bay County. So the next one talks about Gulf County. But I don't know whether we even need to have anything in there about the Bay County School Board. Looking at what we do for development and that kind of stuff.
Do you know if you are part of, I don't think you are. There was an interlocal agreement for school concurrency that was signed in the early 2000s, but I think Mexico Beach was exempt because you didn't have a school, number one. Number two, because your children went to Gulf County.
Correct.
So what policy number did you say?
1.14.
Oh, objective one?
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, you'd crossed it off.
So, because I didn't think you had signed an interlocal agreement with Bay County.
Right.
Yeah, so that's.
You said move to intergovernmental coordination. I don't think we need to move it, I just don't think we need it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, so if Gulf County receives your children, do you have any kind of agreement with them about sending them information on big developments like this mixed-use project so that they can understand whether or not they have the capacity to receive the children?
I got that.
I don't, that's, you're a different, Mexico Beach is a little different animal because your children go to a different county. It's not common in the state for that to happen, so.
But yeah, leave it to us.
Yeah.
Well, it makes geographic.
We're special, we're not different.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It makes geographic sense if you don't have a PhD child. I don't
Yeah,
think you have a
Bay County
PhD
paid the
population.
tuition to Gulf
And
County.
then they paid,
Yeah.
they approved it from here, yeah, it's.
I think there's one bus that comes to Mexico Beach. There's one that comes to St. Joe Beach, and I think only one that comes across the line.
So
Does
you don't
that
have any
sound
kids
right?
that go to Tyndall Elementary?
Driven themselves.
Probably so, but not bus.
But,
Yeah,
yeah, I
that'll
sort
be
of
a
said they'd be
individual
providing their
decision.
own transportation, yeah.
Okay.
I believe the number I've been told is 26 students.
Yeah, if you're not, if you haven't executed
Go
an interlocal
ride the
agreement,
bus.
you don't need to have. a
Right,
just
okay.
section, yeah.
All right. And then, same for that 1.14, that talks about Gulf County. 1.14.2 shall retain a, crossed out a non-voting for a Gulf County school board representative, blah, blah. Consideration of all policy and quasi-judicial hearings that may affect school
capacities.
capacities. So that one sounds okay.
Sounds okay to me.
And then the last one I had was just the 1.14.1 where it talks about the city shall retain a non-voting position for Tyndall Air Force Base representative on the city's planning board. City's planning board, I'm not sure, because it's the council that actually has isn't the mayor the representative for Tyndall?
Well, it's see, there was this, with all the BRAC closings that were scaring the state,
What's Brad?
base
Base
realignment and
Okay.
closure. Was that 10 years ago or so?
Yeah.
They go through an evaluation every so many years, and the last BRAC, Bay County was very concerned about losing Tyndall. I think that across the state, the legislature was concerned about losing military installations, so they adopted these policies that required you to address compatibility with the military installations, and Tyndall and.
Yeah, which we want to do.
So I think, and I'm looking at my spreadsheet here, I thought that was something that you had to discuss. Because, military.
I mean, I think as the way it's worded, is fine. It just says representative on the city's planning board.
If you read the rest of it, it says for consideration of all policies, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, so the future land use plan element shall include criteria to be used for Part A of that number 3, achieve the compatibility of lands adjacent or closely proximate to military installations, considering factors identified in 163.317.5. And so I can go back and recheck that. It's been a while since I looked at it. I think you have to have, I think it requires you to have a, whether or not they come, that's another thing, but I think you're required to have a liaison on your planning commission.
The planning commission being us
Yes.
or the city councils?
You.
So there would be two representatives, because I know the city council has a representative that works with Tyndall also.
I can't get on the internet, but
Okay.
I'll look at that again and let you know, but.
We certainly wanna work with the
usually
base.
it's the planning commission, that's what
So-
they said, they don't usually, because they can't vote for the city commission. They can give you input at this level, but they can't,
Right.
they don't have a
Well,
vote.
we want to do whatever we need to do to work with Tyndall, so I think that's a pretty easy one.
Okay, so So there's language about the ACUs and the, compatibility, single Air Force pays, pursuant to 163.3175, I recommend we keep.
Yeah, I said okay on that.
All right, good.
Hooray!
Woo-hoo.
That section's semi-done.
So what I'll do is I'll make those changes that we talked about to date and resubmit that to Mel like I did with the first sections of the plan.
Great. Just for the benefit of the rest of the board, I received a two-page redo of what we'd worked on so far, which still was missing a lot of the sections that we did, but you did the first part, and I thought it makes sense to look at that as a group once Jim's back and we have everybody to kind of see, you know, where we're at. But
Yeah.
it looked great, and it was a lot condensed, and
It
it
was
looks
a
like
clean
good
copy,
progress.
so
Yeah,
it removed everything we decided to remove and it brought it down to a couple pages.
yeah, so we'll
If
do
we took
that.
out all the definitions, that was a big part of
Yeah.
it.
Future meeting. So, I think we're at the famous red part. I looked at traffic, I thought, traffic's not an issue. This should be a pretty easy section. It wasn't an easy section. There was a lot of stuff in here. So if we can push on this till about 7:15, I'll already cry uncle at that point. Let's see, Mel, you've got it up on the board for the group. Okay, so anything on the first page? Does anybody have anything on the first page? I had just two quick comments. Objective 2.1 says classify our roadways according to function and adopt a level of service standards for the collector and arterial streets. Why do we have to do that? Is that something we're required to do?
Yes,
Okay,
you are required to do that. That is, when you were asking me about who sets the standards for the level of service, well, you do, but because you are choosing to keep level service standards for transportation, you have to assign a standard to measure, so that when a new development does come in, such as this mixed-use development, they know what standard, they know
They
what the
have to-
numbers are. There's a concrete, this is
Okay.
your level of service, and this is the capacity of the road currently, and this is how many trips we're gonna put on the road, and this is, we still have enough room, or we don't have enough room, and we're gonna have to make improvements.
okay. And that probably answers my next question. Then down at the bottom, 2.1.3, it said arterial roads within the city shall be a C. And is C defined then in some documents as to the level of service that you need to
Yes.
provide for a C road, which is highway, only one we have, I guess, is Highway 98.
Yeah, and this is a standard that FDOT uses.
Okay,
Yeah, and it used to be annual, but the last one I could find was from 2014, but they'll issue a report every year, and it's through the TPO, the West Florida Regional Planning Council, the Bay TPO. They issue a chart that has all the roads on it and what the current trip counts are, the road counts are, what the level of service is today based on those counts and the capacity of it's just a whole formula, but they would issue that, so you know where you stand.
Okay.
Right now, I don't think Mexico Beach has a problem on any of the roads.
okay, so just for future thought, someday Back Beach Road goes in, we decide to change 98 from a C to a D.
The state, if it's a state road, they won't let you go too low. So I'm not sure if they'll let you go to a D, which is probably why it's set as a C. They won't, I need to find out, but you can go all the way to an F, which is hugely failing, but the state won't let you go that low on a state road.
Okay. But there's nothing in here we really need to address then as far as, do we need to talk about the Back Beach Road and that we might want to look at the use of 98 once, the category of 98 once the Back Beach Road?
You think the state's gonna let, I think,
They wanted us to assume the maintenance of it and we turned them down. Yeah. Easy decision.
yeah. I think that they're going to, if that Back Beach Road is inside the city limits, no.
No.
Yes, they're probably gonna work with Bay County on that one.
What about the connector roads that come from Back Beach Road into the city? There's supposed to be several. Those would come into the city limits.
They're gonna want you to, at some point, when they get to that point, have policies in your plan to support those connectors.
Okay.
I know that when I was at Bay County, it sounds silly, but they couldn't improve the Hathaway Bridge until we had a policy in the comprehensive plan that says we will support the widening of 98 over the Hathaway Bridge.
So, one more food for thought. As I understand, one map of the Back Beach Road connects to 386 and then dumps you out on 98. So when it dumps you out on 98, we own the half of 386 in Mexico Beach, and
That's
then
interesting.
are we obligated to then do something over there with a traffic light or a turn lane or something?
When I was looking at the tables I was talking about earlier, they didn't list 386 as inside of Bay County, so I'm wondering if they've included it on the Gulf County.
It's always considered Gulf.
Yeah, so the 386.
Which might be good.
Because the limit sign is on this side of the street,
Yeah.
rather than on the far side of the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
west side is the border, but 386 is a Gulf County. County.
Okay, well, we'll just let that dog lie and not do anything. Okay, great. Okay,
Does this policy have to have anything in it dealing with the Back Beach Road when the connector roads come off of it to feed into wherever they're going to?
It will at the point that they start wanting to build those. Or
Because those roads, when all of the plans were being made for that Back Beach Road, they said we could have, they applied, the city TPO bunch applied for up to 5 connector roads. Now, we got, 3 miles, they want to put 5 connector roads, which doesn't make any sense to me. But each one of those connector roads is going to take like 75 feet of right of way. So if they come into Mexico Beach on that back side, each road is going to take a whopper of a chunk of land that somebody owns or has already built on. So does that need to be addressed here?
I would wait on that. I would wait, because is there any kind of opportunities list that show, or graph that shows where they're gonna connect yet?
No.
Yeah, I think it's a little early. I would wait until you wanna know what they wanna do before you know whether or not you wanna support it.
Yeah, but their version of letting you give your comments is, this is what we've actually decided, give us your comment, and it's not gonna change.
Well, they should be giving you a choice. They should show you, this is one choice, this is another choice, this is another choice, and they're supposed to conduct it in a way where you give your preference.
Yeah.
okay, well, we'll stay on top of that as we get
We're not
closer.
crossing that bridge yet, but you will
Okay.
need to address that at some point.
I'm on 2.1.4 down to 2.23. I just had 2 Ys. 2.1 point new 6.
Okay.
Average daily count, peak hour to evaluate adopted levels of service, determine concurrency with this comprehensive plan. So is this for our own protection? We're evaluating existing and future capacities on roadways, and I just didn't want to put us,
Yep.
I didn't want to add more money that we had to spend
No,
to
you're
evaluate
not. You're
a
making
road that has no traffic on it.
Yeah, no, you're telling the developer, they have to tell you.
Okay.
Now, whether or not you want to internally review that and make sure their numbers are accurate, that's up to you. But for example, this big brown spot, in order to be able to project traffic, they're gonna wanna know how many residential units they have, they need to know how many commercial square
Right.
feet, or whether or not there's any industrial in there, and then they have trips based on professional methodology that they know there's 9-point-something trips per day per residential unit. So, they just factor that out to get the numbers And a lot of governments like to use the PM peak because that's the heaviest travel time on the roadway.
Okay.
To know what, so your PM peak is the worst case scenario to know whether or not there's capacity on the road at that time.
I know there's a lot of funny business going on with measuring the traffic peak and all that stuff. You can measure peak while the kids are out of school and there's not much traffic, or you can measure, there's different during the Christmas holidays, or, that's not anything we need to get in here, but.
Right. PM peak
there's-
is usually, and I think FDOT might have it defined, but it could be different for different areas. You could say it's from 5 to 7 p.m.
Yeah, well, if we did 5 to 7 p.m. this week as opposed to July 4th week,
Yeah.
we'd get some big different numbers,
But
so.
when they do their analysis, FDOT will do their traffic counts. You don't really have control as to when they're going to do that, but it's just
Okay,
part of it.
yep. All right, only other one I had on this page was 2.2.1, the city shall coordinate with FDOT to have center turn lanes constructed at the intersections of 98 and selected collector roads. And I had a Y on that. Why do we want center
We don't.
turn lanes? I don't think we do.
You can, that was a policy that was in there, you can certainly take it out, but I would maybe just say the city shall coordinate with FDOT on improvements to Highway 98 and selected corridors.
That's
Take
fine.
out the reference to the center.
Yeah, I don't, we don't want it.
When they went through the redesign of 98 that they're going to be resurfacing now, they said no to a center turn lane anyway.
Good, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
good for them. Okay, anything else in those? All right. Anything from 2.2.4 down to 2.3.3?
So let me ask on the 2.2.2, I had a question on whether or not that was a policy that we needed to retain. The city shall coordinate with.
Oh, I had a
FDOT.
no by that. Term the feasibility of a realignment of US 98 improving traffic flow. I just had a no. We didn't want 98 realigned.
So just take
through
that-
houses,
take that
yeah.
one out.
Sorry, I didn't see that. Good catch. Okay, next page then. I had a couple okays and I had marked lines on 2.2.8. City shall require new non-residential development to locate parking to the, and then rear or side of the building to provide for. I get why you want to do it, but there's some areas that are commercial on 98 that I don't think there's room, if you're going to put something there, to have those dump out into roads on the side, and there may not be a road on the side.
Well, you could still have a road on the side, but the parking would be in the rear of the side. That would, and I don't know, we'd have to look at your setbacks to see if they would have to be adjusted, but that would move the structure closer to the right of way to create more of a pedestrian feel like you might have in, I don't know, the older part of Apalachicola or
Mhm.
some of the older downtowns. They have more of a street sense for pedestrians than vehicles. But
It just seems like that would be hard to do on some of our, with the size of some of our commercial properties that we have left,
okay,
so.
It might place a hardship on them that other competing businesses
Right.
don't have.
Yeah.
If I were to open another cafe like Sharon's Cafe and do it on one of these existing commercial lots, you're telling me you need to scoot yours closer to put the parking in the back. Is that,
okay.
Could we change required to encourage?
Yeah, certainly.
Maybe, certainly it's a great idea, but I don't think it's gonna work in all cases.
And that was 2 point, okay, we're good.
And they would have to go through us anyway to
Yes.
do it. And 2.3.2, I had discuss. There The roadway and right-of-way along US 98 between the western city limits and 6th Street shall be designated, this is that tourist corridor that we talked about. Within this area, code enforcement, beautification efforts, and landscaping shall be a priority within the city. That's okay, but I think still the rest of the city, because that's the commercial part or the tourist part, but it gets even better as you keep going, because then you get to the beach part. So I don't think we want to limit any funding or grants we go after to that area. I think we want the whole stretch of 98 in my mind. There's no reason not to do it on the whole
So do you,
period of
well, you
time.
could say, if you want to create a tourist corridor, you could say all of 98 within the city limits.
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable with that if everybody can live with that. It's all a plus, so I don't know why you wouldn't want to do it. Somewhere in here, we talked about shade trees, and I took those out, but,
Okay.
and then,
Why don't you take shade trees out? We need shade trees.
well, shade trees don't grow well in our area unless they're live oaks. I mean, I'm thinking, we can talk about that when we get to that part.
That was one of my questions, but the way you changed it did,
You okay?
I'm okay with that, because I was gonna say, why 6th Street? That doesn't make any sense. Should have been 7th Street
Gotcha.
instead of 6th Street, because that block between 7th and 6th is purely residential. But if he's gonna change it to all of 98, then there's no problem.
I guess quickly back on that shade tree thing, I don't consider a palm tree a shade tree.
Oh,
Me neither.
So that's why I was,
gotcha.
and I'm not a landscaper, so I don't know. And then I had a why on 2.3.3, shall seek funding to draft and adopt a corridor landscaping plan for Mexico Beach. And then that tourist corridor, we should, just for Mexico Beach or along 98 or whatever we want to say, but
Well, if we're creating a tourist corridor along 98 in 2.3.2, and that's all of 98 in the city limits, that would
Okay.
be your tourist corridor.
Now, is a tourist corridor going to have any negative effect on the purely residential section? I'm just asking, because when I think of tourist corridor, I usually think of commercial. But if we're including all of 98, will there be any negative effect on the last east mile?
There aren't any regulations implemented yet, so that's still all
Okay.
to be determined. It's up to you
yeah,
guys.
I hear you. I mean, we just want it the way it is. We don't want to,
Yeah, but I
Change
agree,
it.
if we can beautify any of it,
Yeah.
that's, all the way, but let's not forget that the tourist corridor might imply commercial.
For example, there's a tourist corridor in Panama City, and they don't make much out of it, they don't do a whole lot with it, but they do prohibit adult-type uses in a tourist corridor. So they can't be where the main traffic
Yep.
and people are traveling through.
that works.
I mean, you can do a lot more with it than that, but that's what it does.
I guess I felt uncomfortable on 2.3.2. It gives us a date, by 2022, which sounds way out there, but comes up pretty quick.
Yeah.
That it's telling us that we need to seek funding and draft and adopt, blah, 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 blah. I just don't like things that give us a date and then
Yeah.
say, Mel, you need to do this by 202.
It's a great way to measure how effective your plan is, though.
Hmm.
Because it's not something you can continue, you shouldn't continue to kick down the road.
Or,
And not
yeah.
only that, but it helps you with your TA grants. You can get them in a TA grant or something like that.
That's what I was wondering, if it's encouraging you to seek funding.
We all know that we have a terrible habit of kicking everything down the road, so if it's possible to keep us from doing that by putting a deadline in there, it might be worth considering.
I'm for it then. Let's do it. I'll have that done next year.
5 years away.
Okay, next page. Anybody have anything? I had a question mark on 2.5.1 that was, a lot of it was crossed off. This policy does not quantify substantial, would need to set a parameter, also industrial uses, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it was talking about proposed development which will generate substantial traffic. Well, what is that? What is substantial?
Yes.
How many trips is substantial? Is it a certain percentage over existing, or is it a certain number altogether, or it's too arbitrary?
Yeah.
So you can't really enforce something like that.
So what do we do then?
So if you want to keep the policy, we would need to set a threshold of what substantial is. Excuse me. And also it talked about general commercial uses, commercial general uses, but if you have, I mean, you could have substantial traffic for a house of worship on Sunday morning. So you just need to figure out, you just need to figure out what you want to say.
Well, for instance, the big brown blob, which is the St. Joe Bonfire Beach.
Yes, I would say that's going to create substantial traffic.
Their original plan, this was in 2006, but what they brought to the city was for, and they got tourist mixed use on that, was to bring in, best of my knowledge, my recollection, 750 homes, 70,000 square feet of retail. That's substantial.
Yeah, it is.
They're not gonna build it all at once,
Mhm.
but even portions of it, because, you know, they're probably gonna develop around the boat ramp first. They're looking at something there from the indications I have.
The Fisherman's Village or?
Fisherman's Village, that's substantial coming down that one road. So what is our definition of substantial? How are we gonna handle that?
Has there been, just within the last couple of weeks, a road cut into that area?
Yeah, Farmdale, they're working on it. I say yes, I went by in the
I
middle.
saw
it
the
was there.
sign today noticed it for the first time, yeah. Farmville
So
sign.
they're going.
Yeah, so if you have a policy that says proposed development which will generate substantial traffic shall be located in general commercial, that means you couldn't have a PUD that creates substantial traffic.
Well, they got tourist mixed use.
Because it has to be located in general commercial if it's going to create substantial traffic, that's what it says. Right now.
And then we're back to defining substantial. Yeah.
But it just means your PUD couldn't create substantial traffic, the mixed use couldn't create, because it has to be in general commercial. Proposed development which will generate substantial traffic shall be located in general commercial.
So you're saying a tourist mixed use development doesn't, that's just, we don't regard that?
This policy says that if it's anything outside of general commercial, it cannot generate substantial traffic.
Including
That's the
tourist
only
mixed
land
use?
use category that would allow substantial traffic. That's what this policy says.
Yep. So.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. You're saying, so existing tourist mixed use is not allowed to generate substantial traffic, is that correct?
I'm saying this policy says if it's going to create substantial traffic, it has to be in the general commercial land use district. And then it has to be adjacent to arterial roadways.
I'm confused.
Well, that's what their
Yeah.
policy says. So that's why I didn't like it, because if you have a PUD that creates substantial traffic, then you have a problem with this policy.
Well, what can we do then to cover ourselves from, not to pick on the quarry property, but if the quarry property went through, that's commercial, I understand going down through there, but those other roads aren't commercial. That
Right,
go
I
to
mean,
it.
we've got Bonfire Beach to consider, we've got the quarry property, and then we've got Rustic Sands. If that sells, that's 19 acres of commercial property.
Mhm.
So, you know, we've got 3 substantial potential areas of heavy traffic. I would just like to see something clearly in place.
Well, this policy is just telling you that if you're gonna create a lot of traffic, you have to be a general commercial category. That's it, that's all your choices. But your analysis on the traffic impacts and whether or not there's gonna be fair share fees, that's all covered elsewhere. It's not taking that away.
Okay, as long as we're covered elsewhere, then that's fine.
That's why we adopted the level of service standard in the P and peak hour analysis, so that you know whether or not they're substantial.
The only other one I had on this page was by 2020, the city shall develop standards for donation and dedication of right-of-way by developers.
How do can handle that today. So when they develop these roads inside of this mixed-use development and they want to dedicate the roads to the city, how's that?
I'm not sure that's, I mean, there's no formal process. Once everything is approved, when the final inspections are done, it's turned over to the city.
So you maybe just, this is suggesting that you just adopt standards on how that process is handled so that
Which I think,
whether or not you're gonna do that by resolution, whether or not you're gonna have an engineer go out there and check it to make sure it's built properly, whether or not, and you could cause that fee, that cost to be borne by the developer as part of the fee schedule.
Is that intended to protect the city? So if
So you're
if
not-
the city, if the roads were built poorly, now we're adopting maintenance of something that
Right.
was shoddy workmanship.
and then, you know, you want to have sidewalks, and for sidewalks and
Right.
things like that, not have the general commercial come all the way up to the,
Make sure
There's
they
no
have
room
the
for
right of way
sidewalks.
that you want.
yeah.
Then I would like something that allows us to evaluate before adoption.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think there is some language back in here that talks about that. But we can certainly say it here too. So it's good, I guess, the way it is. I didn't have anything else on that page.
Good, because you have 2.5 more minutes.
Yeah, but we only got 3 pages. All right, next page. So, let's see.
Do we even enforce that one, I can't even read that, 2.85 at the top, objective, maintain procedures to control the connections and access points of driveways and roads to roadways. Do we even have any controls of that now?
We have a driveway permit.
Yeah, you do. They're not supposed to construct a driveway, especially on a state road without a driveway permit, so I guess you have one for the state also.
Right.
I guess my biggest one on this one was 2.5.4, where it talks about controlling access to 98, new non-resident village allowed a maximum 1 access point to Highway 98 per parcel. And, I mean, the parcel could be a huge parcel. So I don't think 1 makes sense for a 1/4 acre parcel and then 1 for a 10-acre parcel.
Well, that would be 2 or more parcels then. If there's a development with 2 or more parcels at the same development plan shall be allowed a maximum. Okay, yeah, there would be a maximum of 1. So it's access control is what it is to 98,
Prob-
how many access points. you
But I
want.
don't think it's fair to say that somebody with a 1/2 mile of road frontage gets 1 point, and the neighbor down the street with 200 feet of road frontage gets 1 point.
That's mainly normal though in most cities, one access point.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, Farmdale's gonna have 1 out to 98, when you think about that.
Just one?
Just one, is that the way it's set up?
I'm actually a proponent of that because think of Back Beach Road in Panama City Beach.
Yeah.
It's just, it's,
Okay.
they should have built.
I got the developer
service roads
mentality,
back in the
so.
day when they had the space in the room. So,
All right, well, if somebody wants another entry, they can apply for it then, right?
well, you can't get a variance from the comprehensive plan. You can get a variance from the land development regulations, but you can't get one from the comprehensive plan, so.
So if my parcel was 100 acres, could I subdivide it into 2 parcels and then have 2
No.
entrances? Okay.
Development occurring on 2 or more parcels as part of the same development plan shall be allowed a maximum of 1 access point to US 98 for the project.
So are we saying that Bonfire Beach can only have 1 access point on each side of 98? That whole brown section? Is that what you're saying?
What this is telling us.
Yes, but isn't that common if you look at St. Joe's other developments?
Yeah.
Waterfront or
Yeah.
Well,
Water Sound?
Windmark's got several.
Yeah. it does.
One main, one
Yeah.
So there's 3.
Well, you might,
There was
if
one
you're
existing
overly
and
concerned
two
about it,
faces.
you might want to put, if the development is greater than, how big is that?
So many.
How many acres is
Oh, I
that?
have no idea.
And that's the only time we're gonna deal with it, because there is no other land on 98
So,
that's being
it's
said.
a big annexation.
It's over 500 acres.
So if they're over 100 acres, they can have 2 or 3 or however many you want to set.
Well, but Corey's gonna have more than one.
He's not on 98.
It's not on 98.
Well, but he's gonna,
It says 98.
it's on 98, is that what it says?
Right. No, yeah, I do agree with multiple access points.
Along US Highway 98.
Mhm.
Okay.
To US 98 for the project.
Well,
And
we
this is.
throw it up the
if you're
flagpole,
gonna-
see what
if you're
happens.
gonna- If it's, so here's the other key, this is talking about non-residential development, so if you have a mixed use, you could argue that they could have more than one.
Well, I'm all for controlling all those entrances and exits, but
So then
That's
we,
always
so
acceptable.
if you want it to be for any development, then we need to take out non-residential. Because non-residential would be anything commercial, industrial.
Right.
Public.
well, we don't want a whole bunch of roads coming off. and
Agreed.
I
Agreed.
agree.
Let's just keep it.
Do you want it to say non-residential, or do you just want to say any development?
Keep it as written.
Any development.
I agree with any development.
There you go.
So new
If anybody
development.
complains, talk to Jack.
Any new.
Okay, I didn't have anything else on that page. And we're past our time, so you wanna wait and do a good job or plow through 3 more pages?
Let's plow fast.
Plow, all right, here we go. Next page, the only thing I had was 2.6.1, Mexico Beach will work with Bay Transportation Planning Organization to promote transportation improvements within the city. Why do we have to with Bay Transportation Planning Organization?
That's the TPO, that's the Bay County TPO, and because you're part of the TPO.
They provide the traffic counts and some of the other things you were talking
They,
about.
they get them from FDOT, and then yes, they make a report. And it's available.
All right,
Yeah, see no problem with doing that.
sorry,
I don't
Adrian.
have
No, you're good.
2.6. I don't think.
2.6.1.
I go from 5 to, oh, it's way down here.
And
Okay,
that's where
sorry.
your federal transportation funds come from.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so we got
Let's
to
keep that.
next page, anybody else on that page? I'm on page 7 of 8, 2.7.1. I had a no on 2.7.2.
This is your shade tree point.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about that. Maybe I should take out my no and just leave it, not get too technical. All non-residential development or redevelopment adjacent to 98 provide shade trees in close, do we want to, in close proximity to existing or planned sidewalks so that the tree will provide shade to pedestrians traveling on the sidewalk?
Why is that there? Is that from others, or is this an existing?
It's not existing, it's something I propose for you all to consider, because Florida is hot and sunny, and to promote pedestrian activity, you need shade.
Yeah.
I like the idea of that.
I'm all for as much shade as you can get if you're walking on 98. I really am. The heat from the asphalt, and then the heat from the concrete, the water, the
Yeah.
wind blowing, I mean, it's hot.
Okay.
We want to encourage that. You can get native trees that only grow up to like 20, 25 feet that fit in small spaces. And, you know, palms, you don't consider them, they can cast a small shadow. you
Yeah.
know.
If they're trimmed, they don't cast much of a
Well, and we
shade.
need to look at your
No, I just leave
elevations,
them alone.
because, palm trees are essentially a grass, they're not a tree. So
Ah.
some local governments don't allow them as your landscaping plan, because they're not a tree.
You can
Okay.
have them, but they don't count.
They don't, that's true.
Yeah, count.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's leave it.
And we will maintain those, because the problem we have now on the sidewalks, in front of a lot of these condos, is all the palms and everything hanging over.
Too low and you can't ride your bike underneath them,
That's right.
particularly if you're 6'3". Yeah.
Well,
Is it on
Policy
the riders
2.7.
policy?
I think
About
that
bicycles.
if they're on their property, they should maintain them. Do we want to put that in, to be maintained by property owner?
Because it's not being done now.
As so much is not done
We don't want to
Non-residential.
buy into tree replacement and,
That type of, I think that should go, if you're going to talk about that, maintenance should be in the
Oh,
land development regulations.
okay. If you'll make a note so we catch that then. Okay, and I guess I had down on 2.7.9, I had transit riders underlined with a question mark.
Yeah, it's just a list of types, other modes of transportation.
So it
as that becomes
doesn't really matter then.
No.
Okay. And I had nothing on the last page. Okay,
We're getting there.
we're making progress. Let's see if I had my cheat sheet here.
So we need to talk about a workshop.
Yeah.
Grant.
Just to give you where we are, we've just finished traffic circulation, which is through page 41, well, actually through page 45. And we've got to go to 87, so, but hopefully some of those back sections are just footnotes and all that stuff that we can get through.
Cut and dry.
Let me tell you, having sat through a number of meetings to do ears and comprehensive plans and covering it for the paper, y'all are speeding through this.
You are.
Okay.
No, you are, she's right.
You really are.
Good.
It's amazing.
Well, we'll keep speeding then. So,
Cal?
yep, calendar. Next meeting, have to have it in October to meet the requirements.
At least one. He's gonna
Okay.
find out.
So- Jim will be back on the 9th, or about the
2
9th.
weeks from tonight.
Yeah, well, 1 week maybe. He said,
We could do, I can do the 23rd.
That's the city council meeting. Oh, sorry, city council
Yeah.
on the 24th.
I'm gone then, but you don't have to have me. There's, Jim's back, so.
Is there another day of the week? I'm not available on the 16th, I have to be in Apalachicola. So I could do another day that week. Do you have a meeting on the 17th of the city?
We do not. So that's-
I'm not available on the 17th. Well, if we do the lunchtime thing, yes. If it's an evening like this, then no.
It doesn't matter.
Does lunch work for you on the 17th?
Yep. Tuesday, that's a good day for me.
Okay. Let's, high noon on October 17th, that'll be the next meeting. And we'll cover the flood requirements that we need to first. And then if we've got any time, we'll work on housing.
You check if this building's available that day.
Good idea. Otherwise, we'll go to your place.
Mega Marley's, it's close.
Yeah. We'll go to your place.
Yeah, well, be tight, but we'll try.
We always go to the conference room at City Hall.
That's an idea.
It just doesn't work.
Yep, that's a great idea.
So I think that the next agenda should just be the flood barrel. Just, you can talk to the attorney and see, or maybe.
Just to make sure there's no confusion, like we're throwing it in or anything.
We have to submit the
To make
agenda.
sure that you meet the requirement then.
Yeah, for 25.
Gotcha.
Could you have 2 meetings scheduled? One form, if it's not gonna take that long, and then adjourn that meeting and then go right into the next
We
meeting?
wouldn't even need to adjourn it, we could just continue. We can have 2 things on the agenda, I suppose.
Well, you guys write it up the way you want. If Adrian says we're good on the 17th at noon,
We
we'll
won't
be.
have any, but you'll be good.
All right. Is that okay for you,
Where
Mel?
are you going?
17th at noon?
Minnesota, oh, okay, you're going home then.
This one's gonna be a bring your own lunch, so.
Okay, that's fine.
The only other.
We blew the budget.
Thing we need to think about is the GIS.
So what? Oh, you're gonna get to go for a week. Good.
Okay, anything else?
I do have something.
Was it on the agenda?
It's under various and sundry.
Okay. Because I pushed them way past when I said we'd leave. What you got?
I want confirmation whether I'm thinking straight or not. We have an incident where a local businessman has a part ownership in a residential piece of property, and he is storing his commercial items on the residential lot.
Mhm.
So I go at the allowable uses in the land use district, where in this case, this is the residential general area. These are the 4 uses: residential, outdoor recreational, personal service studio, and public institutional. Then in the next section, it kind of lists in detail what is allowed in each of those districts. Nowhere does it say storage of commercial items in a residential area. So if it doesn't list it, my opinion is it's not allowed.
Correct, whether you own a commercial business or not.
Right. Now, the things that I think is appropriate is if you're a handyman, you got one truck, it's got your, a handyman bell on the side or something, I park it at home. That's okay because it's
Your ladder,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
But if you're storing items, that's a whole different,
I mean,
What
is
kind of
it,
items?
is it being stored inside or outside?
Outside.
Oh, so it's out in public view
It's
then?
large stacks of beach chairs, if you want to know.
It's those dang wooden beach chairs
Okay,
on my street.
gotcha. Remind me again that street and I'll ride and look at it.
Maryland.
That's right, Maryland.
Maryland and Fifth.
Okay.
Sounds like a residential lot is being used for commercial purposes.
Mhm.
That's exactly
It is,
right.
banana
Will
boat, chairs,
C,
everything.
I'm sorry, will letter C affected?
What did you say?
Outdoor recreation.
recreational?
Oh, letter C on
Okay.
It's commercial equipment, including that orange tractor.
Now, a lot of people park their boats on their lots.
Yeah,
So if he parks his parasail boat there, I think we gotta say that's okay.
It's got
No.
advertising on it now, and we went through that with Tom Bailey
And we lost.
ad nauseum. Tom Bailey had moved his, Art Sigmund had moved his.
Floor Days, I know, parks his
Has not.
at his house, but it doesn't say, it could be John Doe's boat. It doesn't have a phone number on it.
This is.
So you
parasail
wouldn't
and
know
phone
that it's a
number.
charter boat. It just has Floor Days on it. So
Southbound was the one that.
southbound charters, yeah, the one that parked on the vacant land over near us.
And didn't Brian Kathy have to move this?
Yeah. You could tell me that,
Yeah, I guess I have trouble with the tractor, but I've seen other tractors on pieces of property in town, maybe more on a trailer. I know this one's on a trailer or not, so
no,
that's a good, if it's the tractor I'm thinking of, that's not a lawn tractor, it's a tractor.
it's an orange tractor.
Yeah.
He has been storing all of this at the old governor. Why he decided to move half of it, who knows?
maybe the old governors
Due
did.
to the hurricane weekend.
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
And we told him that temporarily you're okay with it.
Mhm.
Emergency, all bets are off.
It was an exception
They're
then.
still there, so
It's still there.
there.
Well, I'd say if you told them that, then it's time
Yeah.
to move them back. Hurricane's
So-
over, take down your.
So did
board.
he approach you then about it?
I'm sorry?
He approached you about it then?
No, we broke down.
Oh, okay, so you spoke with him about it and gave him the go-ahead for that temporary period of time then?
No,
Oh, that's the material.
Okay, all right.
but it's there, and the question is, should it be there, I guess is the
The
bottom line.
answer is no.
It should be returned to where it was before the emergency situation.
One last thing, we try to protect our rights of ways as much as possible. There are some exceptions that makes it difficult, like the Grove. Their parking is in the state right of way. And there's nothing we can do about it, otherwise they won't have any parking at all.
Yeah,
But generally, you don't want people parking in the rights of way. Right next to the post office, there's a boat repair business. They have a tendency to park boat trailers and boats in the right of way between the street and
what do our regulations say about parking on the right of way?
Well, it says right here. No encroachment shall be permitted into existing rights of way except for temporary use authorized by the city or the Florida Department of Transportation. Now, you could argue that those boats are placed there temporarily, you know, so do we want to go to the trouble of marking when a boat is sitting there and saying how many days they're there and all that?
You know, what define temporary?
Exactly.
You know, I'm gonna move it next year, so it's just temporary.
Why can't he park it inside the fence?
Don't know.
It's not his business.
Is it in the state right away or is it?
No, it's in right away. It's not on 98. This one is on 5th Street.
So Mel, what can the zoning group do to guide you on this one, or, I mean, do we need something formal to act on at the next meeting, or?
Well, this
do-
last one, we haven't gotten a complaint about it yet, but we probably will at some point, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna need to have some answer what to do with it. And I'm really not looking for an answer from you folks, just wanna let you know that that problem's out there hanging.
I'll drop by and take a look and see what it's.
Okay. Could maybe everybody take a look at the other situation too? And then I'd just give Mel a call directly and let him know your thoughts. It seems to be the general consensus.
So we're all back to the boat, the storage and all that stuff. What was the answer on that?
The answer is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
There was no,
Yeah, the answer is the group's gonna go by, take a look at it, give our comments to Mel, and then Mel can figure out what action to take based on the input from.
And then will that always be a case by case basis?
Which may come back.
or-
Well, I think it'll always be a case by case as things come up.
Well, why would it be
I mean,
one for all?
it is one for all until somebody abuses the, let's just say, for example, that we totally agree that there shouldn't be any commercial materials on a residential lot, quote unquote. So it's the same for everybody, but it's gonna be case by case till the next person puts a load of bricks on their lot that they're storing for their next job or something like that. So that's the way I mean case by case, not you're okay and you're not okay kind of thing. It's a
I
case.
got photos of all that stuff he's parked over there.
Okay, well, maybe the group wants to take a look at it on the way out. Appreciate that. Okay, thanks, Mel.
do you think the Larry need anything else?
So I just want to be clear then, at the meeting on the 17th, we're going to talk about the flood peril, and then you want the housing element for that meeting also?
How much time do you think the flood peril will take? And do you think we can cover it in that meeting?
Yeah.
You're supposed to be getting input from the community, so.
Right.
It depends on how many people show, I suppose.
Gotcha. So it's kind of hard to know then.
Well,
And it would help to have, some maps to show where certain things are. We can, you can have them up here on the screen, where the flood zones are. Where the-
So-
someone has to-
so to finish this off then, would you have a chance to review housing before the 17th, or should we just
Yeah.
work on the,
Yeah, I can get it, he likes it the Friday before the meeting, I can definitely.
even if you just did 5 pages or 6
Well, I
pages,
started
at
to say
least
we could-
let us chew on it a little
And
bit.
have it to look at ahead
Yeah,
of
if we get
time.
through the other one quickly, we'll go from there.
How
Okay?
much in advance would you like that before the meeting?
Before the weekend works for me.
Yeah.
Friday's okay?
Friday's
Yeah, it's
great
okay.
Thursdays? Okay.
to be on the agenda. Okay, help him get the package out, so. he'll be gone.
Motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn, do we have one?
We do. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay.
So approved, adjourned. Sorry to hold you up.
That's all right.